Hello and welcome to That's So Craven, your one-stop shop for all things Fulham. This is Dave and this is After Dark. And tonight we'll be reviewing Fulham's somewhat chaotic transfer window with the help of TJ from Fulham Fan News. So we're delighted to have TJ here, and we'll also have the After Dark MVP. It's Fulham legend Mary Southgate. So before I introduce you guys, I just want to say welcome to everyone who's joining us live on X, YouTube, and Facebook. And as always, please just send in your questions and your comments, and we'll answer those throughout the show. So first off, TJ, welcome to After Dark. And it would be great to hear, a little bit about you. And I was thinking before the show, I think everyone would quite like to know a little bit about how Fulham Fan News works, because up until recently, I think a lot of people thought it was just one person who never slept. So it would be great to hear a little bit about that.
So basically, there's a team of us. There's four of us. There's me. I think you've had Kieran and Joe on before, Max, and recently we recruited Cameron Donaldson, who writes all the articles. And yeah, it's just a group of us who decided to get together and just start banging out all the transfer news as quickly as possible and putting it in one place for everybody to see it. Every Fulham fan it's all for them, really. We don't want anything for it. We just enjoy what we do, and yeah, we love serving the fan base. Obviously now Jack Kelly's on the beat as well. It's a two people job now.
Certainly is. And listen, on behalf of all Fulham fans, I think, thank you to you guys for always keeping us up to date on X and on our Discord as well, because that's been really useful. It's been a big part of the transfer thread this summer. So thanks to all of you guys. Now, Townsend, blimey, crazy day on Monday. Yeah, big crazy day. Dust is settling a bit. How are you feeling about everything now the window's closed?
Yeah, well, the window's closed and now I'm back to school. So it's like one mayhem's done, on to the next. But I mean, I'm happy to be back at school in some way. So yeah, but deadline day, it's just so exciting. Even though we don't want to be doing last minute transfers, there is something about the day, isn't there, where it's just it's juicy. But yeah, do you know what? I know we'll touch on it more, but I think we've made some good transfers and some good deals. So yeah, I'm feeling all right about it. I'm glad it's done though. I just think we need to now get on with the season. No more paper talk, no more transfer talk after today. Just let's get on with the season and see how they all get on.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I did not enjoy Monday. I felt I was just anxious mess all day, just hoping those deals went through. You get that small dopamine rush when they do, and then you just think, God, I wish this thing was over.
You just keep seeing every transfer headline comes through. You're like, is it for them? Is it us? Yeah. Is it not? And then no, it's not us again.
This is it. And I'm just thinking, like, I'm sure I'd speak for everyone. I wish all of the countries in Europe would just agree to get it done before the season starts. It just be so much more helpful for everyone. But it is what it is. TJ, I just thought we'd start before we start talking about individual players that we've brought in or let go and Monday's chaos. I thought, back to the start of the summer, we knew that we needed some players. We had contracts expiring, felt like there was a bit to do and an opportunity. Marco had talked about a plan from January. And if you think back, I think we also kind of figured that we wouldn't have PSR issues. It wasn't until later in the window we started thinking about the squad cost ratio rules and the likes. I mean, if we cast our minds back, we all thought this summer was going to start with, a bit more activity. Or did you have a different view on that?
No, I had the same view as everybody else. Personally, I was expecting lots of business early doors, giving Marco what he wanted, what he needed, especially after the comments regarding January. Everybody thought, wow, we're actually going to, sort it out this summer. But it seemed as the summer went on that we were actually not going to do too much business at all, really. Benjamin Lecomte came in. Everyone thought, yay, we've signed someone. Even though it was a second choice goalkeeper, right? But at least it was someone. In terms of the PSR and SCR stuff, I know us as a team, we did a lot of research into it, and we found that SCR is coming in next summer. It's
Mhm.
shadowed this year. It is something that Fulham do need to be wary of, but we're not the only club. We look at the revenue of other clubs as well, Crystal Palace, Bournemouth, teams like that. And the question was always why aren't Fulham spending, but other clubs are? Well, because Fulham never let anyone go. This summer there was that issue. Fulham kept Robinson, they kept Mooney's, they kept the strong core of the squad. They didn't sell anyone for a significant amount of money. PSR, on the other hand, was never an issue. I don't think it was ever an issue regarding PSR. We have a decent amount to spend for a club our size. It was just a case of when we were going to spend it and how we were going to spend it. And as the window went on, I was starting to think to myself, it's going to be right at the very end when negotiations are on Fulham's terms, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and Mary, I mean, you would have heard throughout, I suppose, particularly through August, Marco just has seemed very frustrated at the delays. He obviously had a plan. He put some players to the board, and he expected business to come sooner. So there's obviously been a bit of a breakdown in either communication or in agreement in those two strings. Sorry if you can hear my dog here. She's crying at me for some reason. This is what she likes to do when I'm live on there. Does that concern you, Mary, that Marco's kind of ranted and like he has and shown that frustration, particularly given it's the last year of his contract?
I think it's a worry. Like we all really value Marco Silva, and he's done well. So it's like, why is he not getting the support? And I completely sympathise with his frustrations. I mean, we're frustrated as fans, so let alone Marco Silva, who's the man of the moment, who's trying to put all the plans in place and has all these ideas. So yeah, he's totally right to be frustrated. And when he's looking at pre-season, he's looking at the first few weeks of the season. You want to have your core group and your squad as prepared as possible, obviously, and we can't just be bringing in all these last minute. I know we have, but bringing in everybody last minute. They've now got to gel. They've now got to pick up on the plans and the models and the Marco Silva way, form relationships on the pitch. And it's like, it's all good and well waiting and trying to get a good deal over the line at the end, which we know the Khans quite like to do, but it's the bigger picture. And we've seen it before when we've brought in lots of individuals late on and too many individuals late on, and it's just not worked on the pitch. And I don't think that will be the case this year, because we have got the core group of the squad is the same, which is like really good. And like TJ was saying, I'm glad that we've kept some of these bigger characters and bigger players like Mooney's and Robinson and all of those. But yeah, we have to appreciate that Marco needs time to get these players at the standard he wants and relationships on the pitch. I think that's huge. Yes, they're all going to be great players. They all are. They're professional players, but you can't just rock up and make a difference on day one. You need that time to pick it all up and gel with the players on and off the pitch. Be able to do those, those 1-2 moves in and out off the ball without having to communicate, knowing your teammates around you. So, yeah, it's really frustrating. And I just think the biggest thing is he's been really successful for us. We've been like on an upwards progression, I suppose, the whole way with him. So he needs to be supported. But I just hope that it's not, I don't know why they're not really. But yeah, I feel his frustrations 100%.
TJ, someone who's followed the transfer window like meticulously all summer, and it got to the point where people were concerned, do we actually have any money? But on deadline day, it showed that we did have a bit of money because we broke our transfer record, and we actually tried to spend a bit more, if rumours are to be believed, which we'll get into specifics on that. I guess now the dust is starting to settle in. What do you think the disconnect has been between, Marco Silva and the board, and why are they leaving it so late? Is it just they haven't focused on transfer recruitment until the last minute? Is it that they think that there's better value? Because I'm not necessarily seeing that in the prices that we paid for these players. I guess I'd just like to hear what your thoughts are, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean they're very valid points, but yeah, I mean we followed it from the beginning, and we saw the Romelu bid come through quite early, and I think at that point everyone got quite excited, thinking, "Oh, actually, we're going to do this. We're going to do something good," and then it just tailed off from there. I think they were looking for opportunities, but yeah, I mean, as Mary said, the Khans, they don't tend to do much until the end of the window. I think that might be an American thing. That might be an NFL type thing where, the draft's done on one day, I believe. So I think maybe Tony especially might even just get a little bit of a kick out of it, to be honest. And I'm not the only person who thinks that, and Dave's nodding along there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't really know what the disconnect is. My personal thoughts on it are that Marco prefers Premier League experience players that are on pretty high wages, to be honest. That's what we've seen in the past, and it's worked. It's worked well. And this summer we seem to have gone younger, foreign players. So maybe there's a bit of a disconnect there. But then obviously seeing the video of Kevin's full access this evening, it looked like Marco had, he was the cat that caught the cream. So we don't really know what the disconnect is. I could speculate as much as I like, but I think Tony coming out at the end of the season saying that he wanted Marco to stay forever, Marco's frustrations this summer, you can't fake the sort of body language he was putting across. So there's definitely something there. And he kept saying about, the miracle may not come, the miracle may not come. Well, maybe Kevin is the miracle. Maybe that's what he was talking about. So yeah, I mean, there is something there. But as we'll get on to later, I think the business we've done in the end might actually keep him a bit happy.
Yeah, I think that's what we've got to hope. And Mary, before obviously all the transfers, the club seemed to focus very much on the contract renewal. So we probably should mention that, for the first time, I think in a long time, we've actually secured some of the young players to contracts. Josh King, to get him on a deal like we have, I think is massive and shouldn't be overlooked. But the likes of, Luke de Fougerols, Seth Bridgen, and then also the older guys, keeping on Kenny Tete, Raul Jimenez, Adama, and the core of the team. This all preceded the kind of transfer business. How important was it to kind of get that sorted early, and also just to finally start securing some of these young players to proper contracts?
I think really positive, but I think the fact that we did it quite early shows that there was good intention. It was quite a good statement out to other players that we're interested in. It was a good statement for the fans to be like, no, we are trying to keep these players. Tete is a huge person to keep on, player to keep on. And I think that was massive when we did that. And yeah, it just showed our intention. But it's sort of, we've got the players that are really experienced, the Jimenez, Tete, and then we've got King, who's up and coming and really up and coming and really making a name for himself. Like you said, we've got the younger players coming in, and then with the transfers we've done at the moment, they're sort of bridging that gap in the middle. So I think we've got a really good balance across our squad with the ages, the experience. But I think the people we kept on and we signed, renewed their contract was huge. We can't be starting again. We can't be letting everybody go. There's obviously scope for some people going, as we know, AP, Godot, which I know we'll get to. But yeah, I think they're just big statements, and it's quite encouraging. It did get us. It's good energy for us that we got people like Tete staying, and then it sort of went quiet for a little bit.
Yeah. There's a good question on the comments from Steve Reynolds. And I'll pose this, I suppose, to you, TJ. Was it the threat that Marco might leave ultimately the reason that we spent more that Alistair McIntosh would have liked? Do you think perhaps when the Khans visited last week and realised, Marco's frustrations, and do you think they might have pushed, Alistair McIntosh to action?
Potentially. My personal thoughts are that Marco's in the last year of his contract. I don't see him walking away in the last year of such a project that he's done, especially after what happened at Watford and Everton. I still believe that he thinks that he's still rebuilding that that relationship he has to a fan base after losing it with Watford and Everton. So I think he will see out this contract at least. In terms of the Khans visiting, it always tends to throw up some sort of flurry of activity. The last couple of years, it's proven that it's thrown up some sort of activity. We didn't see that this time. So we were all really panicking, I guess, when, AEW in London happened and we were all like, oh, nothing's happening. What's going on? But I assume there were conversations. We saw the video of the Khans at the training ground. A little bit of a cold shoulder, it looked like, from Tony towards Marco, but Shahid was always welcoming. So yeah, I think maybe there would have been a bit of sympathy towards Marco. There would have been a little bit of like, come on, we're going to get this done, but it's going to be on our terms, sort of thing. So there would have been back and forth, and maybe again back to that sort of divide between the two of them. Marco doesn't know all of the finances. Let's say he just wants the players so that he can give Fulham the best squad possible and enhance his personal reputation and enhance the reputation of the club. So for me, it could have done something, definitely. But Alistair McIntosh is an accountant by trade, isn't he? So
yes,
yeah, he's looking to penny pinch. He's looking to save money wherever he can.
Okay, well, let's move on now to some of the business that we've done. I think we've talked about in previous shows Lecomte, and general consensus is we think he's a good, a better, more experienced backup than Stephen Bender, who may actually in turn benefit from the loan to Millwall, where he started really strongly. So that looks like a good bit of business. Andreas Pereira was the first to move on just before deadline day. Widely expected with, heading into the summer, but the business ended up getting done very late. We picked up a fee of, as I understand it, 10 million euros. The cynic in me thinks that was to avoid paying Man United a their sell-on fee for anything over the fee that we paid them, effectively, if that makes sense. So I didn't think I explained that very well, but I think it was a way of getting out of having to pay Man United any money. But I don't think we've heard from you since Andreas has moved on. So what's your feeling? Did you expect it? And 3 years Andreas was here, quite a controversial figure at times, quite an enigma, had fans, but also had a lot of critics. How do you feel about it now that his time at Fulham's come to an end?
I think it's always a shame to see someone go that has been starting for us. And I know, like you said, he's had people that have backed him and people that haven't, which is always going to be the way with most players. But he had a really strong first season for us, and he has helped us become more established in the Premier League. And he's been on that journey, sort of helping us to be staying in this Premier League. And yeah, he scored goals for us. He's got some assists, which is strong. But I think it's worth noting that he did have to play out of position a bit. And I know we debated that for a while, or we discussed it for a while, that he wasn't perhaps playing in his strongest position. But then you look at like where he's at now, he would have been third in the pecking order behind King, behind ESR. So is he really going to have played as much? No. So I don't see it as a bad move at all. I wish him well. I want him to do well in his move, but I think it's a good move for him and it's a good move for us. I just don't think he would have really added. He wouldn't have got the game time. He wouldn't have added as much value. Even in the change room, I don't know. We're not obviously there, but I think it's just something that was a good move for everybody. But there was times he showed some real passion for us, and he scored goals. He's, like I said, I think he nearly got 9 goals maybe, and about 17 assists. So he's had a big impact on us. Just hopefully he does well. But I don't think he would have played that much now.
No, it's hard to disagree with that. I think actually he'll do really well in Brazil. I think that he might get a little bit more time on the ball, and I think that will suit his game. So I expect him to flourish over there. And I'm very grateful to him for that, particularly that first season, helping us adjust to Premier League life. I think that was what I will remember Andreas for. in time. I wanted to talk to you, TJ, about Martial Godot next, because he was the first actual deadline day transfer, if I'm not mistaken. It had been rumoured for a few days that at Strasbourg and Blue Co and all those dodgy guys were interested. Did I say that? They were interested in him, and the fee quoted was surprising. It started off at being €6 million, but sounds like we got about €8 million in the end, which sounds, for me, a pretty good fee for a player who's barely played any Premier League minutes. And also on that point, how do you feel about there appearing not to be a sell-on fee included in that transfer?
I'm a bit annoyed, to be honest. I'm a big fan of Martial Godot. I thought he could have broken through. I just feel like the penny hasn't dropped for him. He hasn't had that loan out to the Championship where he get a chance to prove himself. And that's, again, down to Fulham's recruitment last summer. I feel for him, to be honest. I think he could have already broken through into the Fulham first team if he'd been given that chance at a loan last year. We'll never know now. But as you say, the fee for a player that I think's played 22 minutes of Premier League football is pretty spot on. It's a really good deal for Fulham. Like you say, there's no sell-on clause, but that could have something to do with the fee. Maybe the fee would have been lower had there been a sell-on clause. So, I mean, Fulham probably thought if someone's coming in with that sort of money for a player like him, he's not going to be high on wages. So in terms of the fee, that can be sent straight back in to go in and buying someone like Kevin, or, paying a loan fee for Chukwueze. So, yeah, it was really good business to do, I think, on deadline day. I know there's been a few rumours as to whether it was linked to Tyreek George, the Blue Co thing, or whether it was linked to Raheem Sterling. But either way, nothing happened in terms of someone coming our way. So we've got a good, decent amount of money from a player who's come from Margate to the Premier League within 3 seasons. And that's the way Fulham should do it, to be honest. And, that's they need to develop from within and sell those players at a profit. That's how a club like us survives and grows.
Yeah, it also shows that perhaps we need to give, a few more of our fringe players just a few minutes here or there from the youth team, because you never know, you might get a fee like this every summer, which is certainly help us and when SCR comes into play in terms of, income turnover. So, yeah, all in all, I think, at the moment it looks a good deal. Mary, I'm just a little bit nervous in 2-3 years' time if Godot really develops and, he starts to raise his value. Do you think this one could be one that got away?
It's one of those, isn't it? But I don't think he would have broken into our team necessarily. So therefore, he probably wouldn't develop. If he does go on and develop and really shine, then fair play to him. But I don't think he would have had that opportunity with us, especially with the people we brought in. So, yeah, it would be great for him if he does, but I think we've done a good deal there, to be honest.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I don't think he would have really had the opportunity to develop to the highest of standards just with the players that we've got in the squad.
Yeah, for sure. Right, let's get to the exciting bit. I think we'll talk about the 3 that did come in before we talk about all the things that nearly happened on deadline day. Or there might be a bit of crossover, but let's see. First off, it's the one that's been rumoured for weeks, ever since Fabrizio Romano dropped a big story that we were interested in Kevin for a significant club record fee, which looks like circa 35 million euros. Pounds, sorry. This one kind of dragged on a bit. It looked like it took us a while to get to the number that Shakhtar wanted. Even on deadline day, we were all a bit nervous that there was something wrong with the deal, because he kept re-emphasizing that personal terms had not been agreed yet, which was just making everyone feel a little bit uncomfortable. But exciting player nonetheless. I think everyone's probably watched his YouTube clips and his games for Shakhtar. This is a player, TJ, that and the type of player that we just haven't had in a few years now. An exciting, dynamic winger with kind of pace and skill. Where are you with this one? I mean, you must be excited.
I'm really excited about signing Kevin. I mean, one of the lads posted out yesterday that it's the first time Fulham have paid a fee in the Premier League since Harry Wilson was made permanent when we came up 3 years ago. That for a winger, and that's crazy. You should be you should be buying a new winger almost every year, a better quality winger. This guy, he looks like a young Willian to me. I watched him a few of his YouTube clips. I've never seen him play live until the other day when they played Servette, and he scored the penalty. But what I liked about him most was how much he tracked back. He was so up and down the wing, and he was tracking back all the time. He looks like he's going to fit into the system so well. Watching his full access today, seeing how well he was fitting in with Rodrigo, I have a feeling that these two wingers that have come in have been bought for that reason as well, so that they will, just slot straight into the team. They won't take that long to adjust, say, because they have people around them that they know, speak their language, things like that. It is good. I think I saw as well that he speaks a little bit of English, so that will develop through time as well. But yeah, he's a very exciting player, obviously, and cuts in off the left wing, runs at players. And we've been crying out for wingers like that all of last season. Everybody could see it. We were too one-dimensional down the left side. If a lower team, say, blocked off that left-hand side, we knew we just weren't scoring, unless it was from a set piece, which obviously didn't happen very often last season either. So yeah, I'm buzzing. It's a bit of a big fee for a relatively unknown player that a lot of people don't know, but in this market, which has been massively inflated by the Club World Cup window, where people were buying players for stupid prices, I'm excited. It's one for all Fulham fans to get really excited about, I think.
Yeah, it is a big fee, but it's less than what Everton paid for Tyler Diblin, who, to my knowledge, has had one good game. So, I'm excited about this one. Mary, how excited are you about bringing in a winger for big money? This guy looks lightning quick. He looks like he's very one-footed, but he looks like he can finish with that 1 foot. He looks like he can take penalties, which is obviously a benefit when Raul's not on the pitch. And the other point, Andreas leaving meant that Rodrigo was the only Brazilian. Now we've got him a new buddy as well. So I think that's another a plus point. How are you feeling about this?
Yeah, I think that's huge. Yeah, it's exciting. And I watched the videos of him, like some of his highlights, and he looks so comfortable in front of goal. Like he'll finish first time, or he'll just take a touch finish. He knows where he is when he's getting the ball to him in front of goal. I feel like he's just got the eye for it, and he looks comfortable, which is what we want. But the pace is exciting. We need someone that's direct, which I expect him to be direct, want to take people on. But I think we do need to be careful that with him being young, he doesn't try and do too much and try and impress too early on. And I think Marco Silva will be really good at stamping that out if he does, and just finding the moments to pass, finding the moments to take someone on. But yeah, I think that's the only thing I'd say, is just that he needs to make sure he's making the right decisions. But yeah, the fact that he's got Muniz is brilliant. I think I watched one of his clips earlier, and he said at Shakhtar he had 12 Brazilians. So now to go and have one, thank goodness he's got somebody. But it's a bit of a culture shift for him, a bit of a difference there. But I think he'll get on with it well. Muniz is obviously what we see is a great guy. So I think he'll bring him right into the team, and it's going to be exciting to see on the pitch.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a guy that I think you're right about being, a bit cautious, and maybe we need to be a bit patient with him at first. If he comes off the bench, he's going to be excited. He's going to have the adrenaline running, and he's going to want to prove himself to the fans quickly and show us why we've spent so much money. And as a player who likes to take players on, if that's not coming off, people can get frustrated. And I just hope the fan base just allows him a little bit of time to settle. Because I think Brazilian players really thrive as well when everyone's supporting them and everyone's on their side. I think Muniz is a classic example of that. So I really hope we show him the love. And I think in terms of his preparation, you couldn't pick a better one-on-one Premier League defender to be up against in training every day to show him what the Premier League's all about. I mean, I'd pay money to watch Kevin vs Tete in training. I just think that would be box office. So yeah, really excited about Kevin. And then just as excited, to be honest, about Samuel Chukwueze. And TJ, I mean, you'd have been following this for a while because he nearly joined in January. And he comes in finally on loan with an option for, I think it's a 25 million option, something like that, which is a big fee. But I mean, I was watching his Villarreal highlights, never mind his Milan highlights from 2 seasons ago, and he was unplayable, absolutely unplayable. You know, just beating players, cutting in, you know, shooting, just really, really exciting. TJ, what do you make of this one?
I'm more excited for Chukwueze than Kevin. And the reason for that is what you're saying. In 2019, he was nominated to be a future Ballon d'Or winner. He was one of the best youngsters in the world at the time. I think number 10. They voted him as. Villarreal highlights. I watched a bit of him at Villarreal, and he was outstanding. There was one game where he tore Real Madrid to pieces. Then he got his move to AC Milan, and I think because the Serie A is a little bit of a slower game, defenses sit deeper. His game became a bit congested, and he couldn't do what he does best, which is 1v1, drive at defenders, get past them. And I think the Premier League is perfect for him. I think when he gets to that, because it's such a fast pace, the Premier League, you know, when we hit teams on the counter, this guy is going to be electric because he can finish, he can pass, and he can go past the man like they're not even there. Joe Gunning, one of our team, did a really good YouTube video of it. And he explains it perfectly that this guy is just as exciting, if not more exciting, than Kevin. In terms of the fee, we were talking to a couple of journalists in Italy, and they were saying that it was going to be around £20 million, so around 25 million euros. And then apparently the moment that he landed in London, shock, horror, Milan put the price up, which is why it took longer than it was meant to take.
Yeah.
Because he was doing his medical. He landed in London, he's doing his medical, and then Milan were like, well, actually, no, we're going to change it a little bit, which is why it ended up being an option without an obligation, because originally it was going to be an option with an obligation.
Yeah.
So eventually he's got in. We've got him through the door, but he is a Marco target. We know that because we tried to get him in January.
Yeah.
And again, shock, horror, we ran out of time because we did everything on deadline day. But yeah, very exciting. Both wingers, direct, pacey. Can't wait to see them play. Think they're going to change the way Fulham play completely. And they may even free up Sander Berger to be a bit more of an 8 rather than a 6. So yeah, really excited to see how Marco tweaks the system a little bit to fit these guys in.
Well, yeah, that's the question I was going to raise to Mary. Actually, Jim in the chat raised this about what's the pecking order now. But Mary, before you answer that, another exciting winger. We got 2. You know, we've been spoiled on the last day with these 2, I think, and you know, very similar statistic. You know, very similar in style to Kevin, which is interesting. So we're going to have that threat on either side now, which is really good. I think it most certainly strengthens our right-hand side and gives us another option. As TJ was saying earlier, you know, we've been very reliant on the left wing. Well, actually now we've got someone who can play there now. And also another one who's got friends at Fulham already. So what do you make of this one, Mary?
Oh, yeah, I enjoyed watching the video of him with, did you see the one where he video called Bassi and Iwobi? And I thought, yeah, this is going to be fun. But yeah, another exciting one. And like you said, he's just adding pace. We've added pace on both sides. And what I also think is when you think if Robinson comes back in when he's 100% fit, you've got that pace for overlaps and different link ups there. You've got Tete as well, who we know is incredibly strong. And he'll get up the pitch as well. He's brilliant in attack, as well as defence. So with them as well, playing higher up, as in like our new wingers, hopefully they play, then I think we've just got pace everywhere down both wings. It's just going to really add so much value, gives us so many more options. But yeah, I think as well on the counter, we'll just be so much more threatening. which we already are with when we do transition in the right ways. But yeah, it's just that we've just got more options now, which is really exciting. But then it is the question of what is the pecking order, because we've got a number of wingers, but there's different options. You can bring Wilson in to the 10, you can bring Iwobi in. So I do think we'll see a bit of a shift in where players are starting, or where Marco Silva is positioning people like Wilson or Iwobi, or it could be that one of these comes on and then someone shifts on the pitch. I think there'll be different combinations we see now, but it'll be really key to get them in when the time's right, just to see what they're about. And he's got a few more years experience. Is he about 26, I think? So he's got 3 or 4 more years experience than Kevin, and a similar sort of player. So I think hopefully he makes the right choices, and it should be the right guy. Marco Silva's been wanting him for a few transfer markets now. So he persistently wanted him. There must be something about him that's going to fit into our system.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then it looked like that was going to be it until, well, I guess it was Francis and Peter Rutzler both dropped a bit of a clue that JKA, as I'm calling him, Jonah Kusi Asar, only first linked on the day, late in the afternoon, TJ. Loan with option, quite complicated. He signed a new contract before he left. We've got an option. You might know more about what the price is on that option. And I also believe Bayern have got a buyback clause as well that they can access in certain windows, is what I've read. Not sure what that means. And I don't know if that buyback clause has got an expiry date either. So you may not know the answer to these questions. I might be throwing you under a bus here, but what have you heard about this deal, and what do you make of this signing? 18 years old. I mean, he looks exciting in the videos, but he's still a young lad. I mean, what do you make of this one?
Well, I mean, he's very raw, isn't he? He's not played very many minutes of football. Came from the Swedish league. I believe Bayern picked him up from the youth team of AIK. So, yeah, he's not played very many minutes of football. But from what I've seen at Bayern, he looks like a real talent. Big, strong lad. I think he's 6'5". So, he's a big boy. And I think he's exactly what we need for the future. And I'm sure you're aware, but we have a little bit of dialogue with Tony Khan at times, and the option, it wasn't going to happen without an option, essentially. That was the key part of it, and Fulham pushed for it, and Bayern reluctantly agreed to it. So obviously the buyback clause came in after that, and I believe that's why it took longer, and the PL had to approve it and stuff like that. In terms of the fee, I've spoken to a few German journalists who are a bit in the dark about it, but they believe it to be around 15 million euros for Fulham. I don't know if there's an expiry regarding the buyback clause. I have no idea what it means by certain windows. I don't know what that means. And I believe the buyback clause is somewhere around 35 million euros.
Okay.
But that's not been confirmed by anybody, I don't believe. This is just what I've heard from certain journalists in Germany. And if he turns out to be the player that Bayern fans believe he could be, I've spoken to a few Bayern fans who are really upset he's gone. They wanted to keep him over Nicholas Jackson, so that must tell you something. I think we could have a really good striker on our hands. Obviously, Raul's contract's up next summer. I believe Fulham have every intention of exercising the option of this player, and I think he'll get plenty of minutes, and we'll slowly, towards the end of the season, maybe see Raul phased out and Kusi Asare brought into the team a lot more. But I believe he'll get a few minutes as the season goes on, and Bayern wouldn't have sent him to us unless we'd guaranteed a certain amount of minutes. So I think he will definitely get minutes.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That's going to be an interesting dynamic with Raul and Muniz, or already fighting for minutes themselves. Mary, I'm not going to ask you too much about the player himself because nobody really knows. I mean, he came out of the blue, and he's an 18-year-old who's had limited appearances in the first team. I don't know if you saw his video earlier today. He's he's quite a straight shooter, a man of little words, but seems quite well spoken. I'm a bit worried no one's checked his birth certificate because he looks about 30 and sounds about 30 to me. But mature guy, 6'5". He's been given the number 18, which suggests it's that is a first team squad number. It's a bit of a clue as to that he will be involved. What's your view on this one?
There must be, some long-term strategy behind this because, like you say, it's sort of come out of the blue. Probably is someone that we'll see come in for some cup game minutes or minutes further after Christmas. Like TJ said, with Jimenez possibly being phased out later in the year, he needs to get minutes here and there. But yeah, he's got really, from what we know, which is not much, the attributes to make, a good striker, a good forward. But we'll have to see. I'm interested to see when he gets some game time and how he goes with that. But yeah, he has got some really good attributes that as he grows with his experience and his age and strength, hopefully, it could be really positive.
Yeah, and as Rogers just mentioned, he's also got like something a bit different as well. He's a guy with height, pace. He's a bit different an option to Muniz and Rao, and I think that's quite important, having a different profile in there to be part of the rotation. So maybe that's a sensible bit of business. This could be a really interesting one. It's one I'm probably the most intrigued by out of what we've brought in. It's just it could be a really clever little move, this. So fingers crossed it kind of works out. And before I suppose we kind of round up, there was a lot of other rumours, TJ, going on deadline day. God, there was millions. There was a few outs which were really surprising. One in particular, Harry Wilson. I don't think anyone had, maybe you'd cottoned onto this, but I think for a lot of people was surprised to see him linked so strongly with a move to Leeds. There's talk of there was a deal sheet in for him. And at the same time, I believe this was linked to a move that Fulham had made and was announced by Fabrizio Romano for Tyrese George of Chelsea. Are those, in your opinion, those deals very much linked? I mean, what can you tell us about what happened there?
Yeah, I think they were linked. I think Harry Wilson's agent did a little bit of work earlier in the summer when he extended for a year, and then Romano tweeted saying that he may still move this summer if Fulham don't extend his contract. I don't know what he's looking for in terms of a contract, but I do definitely think it was linked to Tyrese George. There's been a lot of journalists that have come out and now said that Wilson had agreed to go to Leeds. Leeds had put a decent amount of money on the table, and then Fulham pulled the plug last minute. So I don't know if conversations have happened throughout the day where they've gone, okay, we'll come back to the table over a new contract or what. For me, financially, if he's not going to sign a new contract, then you sell the player. There's no. I love Harry Wilson. I think he's a great player, but there's no room for sentiment when it comes to business in football. If you're not going to, and this is one of the things that Fulham fans constantly have a gripe about, which is, we keep letting these players go on free. They're not going to sign a contract 6 months before or a year before, then you need to let them go for a decent amount of money. Same with Adama. I think Forest came in for him last minute again. So, yeah, I mean, I do think they were both linked. Tyrese George, far as I'm aware, he had a medical, I believe, and they just couldn't get the paperwork done in time. That's what all the journalists are now saying about that. But, yeah, I definitely think they were linked. But most of the reports are saying that Fulham pulled the plug in terms of that deal. So,
yeah, it's an interesting one. Mary, did it surprise you to hear Wilson linked with a move out? I ran a little bit of a poll on our Discord after this it all broke down, just to say, would you have rather kept Wilson or let him go and brought in George? And Wilson just about won that poll. Keeping Wilson just about won that poll, and I think that's because he's a player that we all know, we trust. He's become a bit of a hero for his antics last season in derbies. But actually, Mary, would it have been a sensible move to move on a player who probably isn't going to be a starting player for us now, has 1 year left on his contract, and brought in a guy that, okay, cost a little bit more, but is a young player with a upside potential that we could have brought in on a bigger contract. Are we going to live to regret this a little bit, or do you think we've done the right thing in pulling the plug on that deal?
So I was shocked to see the Wilson one come out. I did think, where has that come from? But then all the points that TJ and yourself have just made, it probably would have been a sensible deal. But I personally I'm glad that Wilson's still here. So on the Discord, I would have voted. I think I missed that poll, but I would have voted glad to see Wilson here. Yeah. But I completely understand all the reasons why it would have been a good move. I think it was going to probably be a similar situation to AP, where we'll see Wilson fall down the order a little bit more. Maybe not immediately, but he probably will. He'll probably highlight a bit more in cup games and moments like that. But yeah, I mean, he absolutely upped his status last year with all those big moments. So got a lot of love for him. And I am glad he stayed. I was really shocked when I saw that. But like you say, George could have been a good one to bring in, other than wasn't feeling too good, as with the rest of the Fulham fans after the Chelsea game. So didn't really like the fact of hearing about a Chelsea player coming to us, and the fact that he scored against us last season in that game at Craven Cottage. But aside from all that, it would have been probably a good player to bring in, but I'm not really caught up about it, to be honest.
No, I kind of share that sentiment. I'm not really that upset about it. Plus, we've got Brentford in a couple of weeks' time. So, we need Harry Wilson for that game, of course. So
the man of the moment.
That's right. So, it was just a really bizarre situation, really, that I don't think anyone saw coming. TJ, Fulham have also tried, towards the end of the window to address an issue that I was calling for from the start, which was, and I know Marco was after an 8. A number 8 to play midfield, another man in there. It looks like we have made some attempts. There's links that we were trying for a midfielder from Feyenoord, Korea midfielder called Hwang, I think. But we couldn't meet their fee. And then another rumor broke about Danilo. Really strange one. He's a player that had been at Forest last season and has just signed for Botafogo in Brazil in July, and we were bidding for him. What was going on there? If with our kind of last minute quest to try and bring in a midfielder.
I think, and again, people are probably not going to like it, but I think it just came down to time. And because Fulham do all their business in the last couple of days, they ran out of time. Everyone's going to say, well, do it earlier. I agree, but I don't know why they do it last minute, but they do. And I think genuinely they just ran out of time. In terms of Hwang, I think he was injured, so I'm not sure he would have come anyway. Okay. And Feyenoord categorically said, no, we're not selling him. He's got like 3 years on his contract. He's a very important part of our midfield. And Quinton Timber is in his last year of his contract, so I don't understand why we didn't go for him, because he's a brilliant player, but that's a different story. In terms of Danilo, I'm not a fan of John Textor, so don't get me started on that. And the Marinakis and the Forest thing, no. But he's a great player. I just don't. I'm not 100% sure it happened. I'm not 100% sure. I feel like Textor playing games maybe. Just because I don't trust him. If the bid did happen, then it was just a silly bid. I don't, just to maybe put it out there to say to Fulham fans, "Oh, we tried,"
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not 100% sure it happened. As Brazilian media put these things out. I've not seen anyone this side in England put anything out. I haven't seen anyone like Alex Crook, Ben Jacobs, Fabrizio Romano, David Ornstein. I haven't seen anything from the English side. So just John Textor put a thing on Instagram saying that a Premier League team made a bid. Well, that's one of 20, isn't it? So it could be anyone. Maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. Maybe Jack Kelly knows. I don't know. But I agree with you. I think a centre midfielder was needed. But I do think also keeping Harry Wilson maybe played into that a little bit because he can play centrally. He's played in an 8 for Wales. He's played in the 10 for us and Wales. Alex Iwobi can play in the 8 and in the 10. I believe a couple of weeks ago, Marco was in a press conference, said something about wanting to get King and Smith Rowe in the same team. Well, if Kevin's in now, Smith Rowe isn't playing on the left, is he? So
No.
I believe he's going to try and do something there, get King maybe in the 8, Smith Rowe in the 10. This year's a massive year for Smith Rowe. I think we nearly got 90 minutes out of him for the first time in the Cup the other night. And I do think it's coming, and I do think he's beginning to look better. So I do think this year's big for him. And if we can get King and Smith Rowe in the same team with Kevin and Chukwueze on the wings, I'm all for it.
Yeah, absolutely. The only other two that had been mentioned around deadline day, I think, was Raheem Sterling, which I looked potentially like Fulham considered him as a backup and didn't need to go down that route, which I'm personally pleased about, but I appreciate some might have thought that would be a good signing. And then Reece Nelson, who's gone and joined that little club down the road. Well, say no more. They've replaced Wisram Bueno with the lad from Bournemouth, who was back up last season, and now Reece Nelson. So bad luck to them. So just in the benefit of time, and I just thought I'd ask you both, where do you rate, all things considered, and I do want to factor in the fact that we did all our business late and Marco's frustrations, but we've addressed a lot of issues this summer. We got some contracts done. We brought in some players that we needed. We're maybe one short, as we've discussed in midfield. All things considered, where would you rate this window out of 10? I'll ask you first, Mary.
All things considered, I'm going to give it a lovely 7 out of 10. And I think the one position, like you've both said, is the midfield, is what we were just sort of missing. But then with our new signings, I do think, yes, Steve, we've got the same 7 out of 10. I think that like Iwobi is another option in the middle. Wilson's another option in the middle. Like you said, there's so many different combinations if you want ESR in there, etc. So yes, I think before the transfer window even opened, we all said we needed a midfielder, but we've made really good signings. I think they've got the pace that we've been lacking. They're going to be direct, we hope. So I think that's really positive. We've made some really good renewals as well. But I just think the frustrations that Marco's feeling is something that does need addressing. There's obviously a deeper disconnect somewhere with that. And Marco Silva is a legend. He's really pushed Fulham on. We are well established in the Premier League. He's got great ideas and we need to be backing him. So whatever reasons they are, it is what it is. We've done the deals now, but yeah, we could have done them earlier. So really happy with the people we've got in. It completely makes sense with AP going, Godot going, and others that went with their contracts expiring. Yeah, a nice solid 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. TJ?
I'm going to go one more. I'm going to say 8. Only because of what's happened around us. The teams that finished around us last season, Brentford, like you just said, they've lost 40-odd Premier League goals and replaced it with Reece Nelson, Dungo Ratuara. Brighton lost João Pedro. I don't believe they replaced him. They signed that young Greek lad who, no one knows what he's going to be like. Bournemouth lost their entire defence and goalkeeper. But in terms of us, we didn't lose any key players, and we've added the players that Marco was crying out for last season, which direct wingers. I'm going to say 8 because of that reason. I think that we've strengthened, even looking at Palace, who are in Europe, they've replaced, but they haven't strengthened. We're the only team in that little cluster of teams, I believe, has strengthened.
Mm.
And for that reason, I'm going to say
8. Yeah, fair enough. I'm actually with you, Mary. I think I'm at a 7. My reason being, I think that to score it any higher, I think we would have needed to have brought that midfielder in that we wanted. Got the business done. before the season started to appease Marco. So that's why I've scored it down. But interesting, we got the results from the Discord poll that we did on this very question. It came in around, round 7 as well. So, but yeah, you make a fantastic point, TJ, about, actually, if you look at it, and I did say all things considered, didn't I? Against other clubs, you have to say that we are the only ones that have strengthened. And we do this all again in January, TJ. I'm sure, we're going back to the market on January deadline day for a midfielder. And, I'm sure there'll be more rumours around Wilson and, oh God. But for now, we can hopefully switch off and have a little short break. I know you guys at Fulham Fan News never sleep, but I think the rest of us would quite like a little break from the transfer window and just crack on with the season now. I want to take some questions because we've got loads of questions in Discord. And I'm just going to kind of ask you guys them because there's some fun ones in there. So we'll start off with one from Barton, and I'll give this to you, TJ. He said, who was our best signing and why was it the set piece coach?
Ali Milou, I think his name is. He's been with under 18s manager, and then all of a sudden on deadline day, he was our first deadline day signing as a set piece coach, which is quite interesting because Marco said previously to Jack quite sternly as well, we don't need one. So again, is there a divide between the club and Marco there? Who knows? But we do need a set piece coach, although this season we've scored from set piece already. So we do need one. I think every club in the Premier League needs one. I don't want to go quite as direct as Arsenal because they seem to only score from set pieces. But it was a good signing to get a set piece coach. In terms of our personal signings, Chukwueze, as you saw earlier, I'm quite passionate about that one.
Yeah, no, it's a good shout. One from Skibby, our very own Skibby, Putney Perspective. Mary, which year will Kevin win the Ballon d'Or?
I feel like Kevin's going to be Skibby's new absolute favourite.
Sure.
I think he's been practicing his singing for him, hasn't he, as well?
Yes, he has come up with a song which he tweeted out the other day, which is very popular. So you never know. Maybe
I expect to see Skibby standing up in the hammy end, giving it large, starting the sing songs for him, and he can be the reason that Kevin goes on to win that in many years to come.
Great answer. DJ, another one from Barton. Who do you think Francis is?
An enigma.
Yeah.
The hero that we didn't know we needed.
It was rather bizarre. He clearly was in and around Motspur Park, whoever he was, because he was too accurate with what he was saying. Either that or he just had a really lucky run. But to come from an account that had no posts and then all of a sudden from 12 o'clock on deadline day started giving out correct information, it was a very strange but welcome addition to deadline day. Another one for you, Mary, from SCS. By the end of the season, who would have made the biggest impact? Smith Rowe, Kevin, or Chukwueze?
Oh, it's got to be one of our new guys, isn't it? But it's difficult to know which one. To be honest, I think they're both going to fit in well, and they can both add such a great impact on both sides. So I think they offer us very similar things with their pace, their confidence to take people on, and ball control. I'll be interested to see who's got more defensive contribution out of the two of them, because we know they're very powerful in attack, but what they're going to be like out of possession and in the defensive side. So I'm not sure. I'm sitting on the fence with it, but I think them two will have a huge impact. But like I said, I actually want to see how they're going to benefit us out of possession. Are they going to put the work in?
Well, the good news is, Mary, from what I've seen of Kevin, he loves to track back and tackle. He was celebrating a tackle he made in the last game they played in the qualifier for the Conference League in the defensive half. So he's a player that seems to work very hard. And I believe Chuck Kwesi's stats for working back too. So I think the club have really done their homework on these two. I don't think they are just luxury players that we've brought in, you know, to come up with a moment of magic. I think they're also grafters. So yeah, if that gives you some reassurance, that's I'm looking forward to seeing them both. Just can't wait to see them. So yeah. That was from the Discord, by the way, those questions. So if you want to get involved in Discord, the group is growing massively at the moment. You know, Jack Kelly's joined it now, which is great. Obviously, Fulham Fan News has been brilliant in there all summer in the transfer thread. The post I put out on X earlier, introducing the pod, the link to join is in there. So just get yourself on there, and I'm sure you won't regret it. Okay, so look. We're at an hour now. I think we've done a good job at debriefing the transfer. So thanks to everyone for joining us live tonight. We can now start getting on with the season and starting off with Leeds next Saturday at home. I'm sure we'll be doing another After Dark next week on a date to be confirmed. TJ, thanks again for joining us, and just pass on our thanks for all of the hard work you guys do in bringing us this amazing service all summer.
Yeah, no problem. We do it because we love Fulham. That's why we do it.
Good man. Good man. And Townsend, all I can say is, you know, at the end of the pod, we just need to hear your trademark close to the show. So can you see us out with your famous trademark close, and we'll call it a day.
Oh, all right. Well, nice to see everyone, and a big you whites.
You whites.